So this is an example of using Codex within an SSH session on the Quest 2. And I'm shooting this video also. What Codex has done is it has searched my OpenBrain server for skill files, and I asked it to configure these skill files so that they're available locally for the next Codex session. And it's now telling me, would I like to make the following edits? And I'm going to tell it yes, but to do that I have to access the keyboard. So I have to click once with my Oculus hand, which right now the left hand is the one configured. So I'm going to do one tap right like this. And now the keyboard should come back. Let's see if it does. There's the keyboard. So to confirm what Codex wants to do, I just have to touch here with my finger. Now Codex says it's working, and it's telling me exactly what it's doing. The local skill folders are in place. I'm doing a quick verification pass against Codex skills, so I can close this one out with exactly what will persist across sessions. So this defeats the amnesia that Codex would have from one session to the next. It's always going to have access to skills. And now it's checking with me to make sure it stays within its limits. It says, would you like to run the following command? And it's telling why it wants to run it. Do you want to allow me to verify the installed local skill files in your Codex skills directory? And this is going to basically search the local skills that it's already installed. And of course I want to do that. So therefore I'm just going to tap again so that I can get the keyboard in order to confirm. One tap. And that didn't do what we wanted. Let's see if we can get the keyboard back. Maybe this hand will do it. Okay, there's the keyboard. So now I can either use, in hand tracking, I can use this ray and click like this, or I can touch it. I'll use this, which I usually do. Now I've confirmed with Codex that I want it to have that to check. And look, here's all the skills it's found. And a lot of these are skills that I wrote myself with the help of ChatGPT. These are some 1976 style RFCs talking about a dream protocol and a remote agents deployment protocol. And so those skill files were already written, but they were saved in the vector database that Nate Jones wrote called OpenBrain. And so it's telling me your existing archive skill is still there at codex.codex skills OpenBrain dream archive skill. So this is great because now I can tell Codex to archive documents and things that it does, and they won't just be on this particular system. They'll be available to me anywhere in the world because they'll be archived. Actually, right now we are talking about the local system. Let me correct that. They're already available anywhere in the world because they're in the OpenBrain server. But what I wanted is to make sure that these skills would be available on the local machine without having to do a separate database query. And so it says your existing archive skill is still there. And now it says verification, find the skills, and it's going to show all 7 local skill files, and that's all good. So now it did what I wanted. So now what I want to do is tell it to record that in OpenBrain. So now I'm going to go back to the command window, and I believe I can get the keyboard back with this hand. That's what worked the last time. Nope, that didn't work this time. Okay, let's see. How do we get the keyboard? Probably select that as the active field. Okay, there we go. So now let's tell it, save this. Save this. In so save this in OpenBrain as a milestone. So I wanted to save this in OpenBrain as a milestone because this is the way that it was able to import skills that are in the database to the local machine so that it would no longer be constantly having to rely on the database. So this has happened to me before where it's not really executing even though I wanted it to start executing. And here's the trick I learned. If we come back here and I hit backspace and then the enter again, then it confirms. Now it says working, and that's what we want. So it says, I'm saving the completed local skill installation to OpenBrain. So it created, now it's created the persistent skills, and now it's going to run the tool, which will allow it to add all of this information about what it did. And here's what it did. It added skill folders for overlay audio, concat all dream server, which is a server that I wrote to let the models dream so they can, multiple agents can access the same session data. This RFC that on the dream capsule protocol, this separate RFC on the remote agent deployment protocol, and phrase extractor. It says, while retaining the existing OpenBrain Dream archive skill, verified the installed files by listing Homegrown Codex skills. Treat local skills directory as the durable Codex mechanism for custom skill persistence on this machine. Now, I want to point out that I didn't have to get very verbose for Codex to know exactly what I wanted, and it did everything correctly. So yes, I want it to continue, but again, I have to have the keyboard back in order to select that. So here in the Quest 2, I get the keyboard back by clicking one of these two hands, probably this one right now. Click. Oh, that's not what we want. So let's try the other one. Let's try this one. And yes, we want to confirm that we're going to allow the tool. So this is how we allow the tool to do what it's about to do. And it's working again. It says captured as observation Codex skills persistence. Save to OpenBrain as an observation milestone about Codex local skill persistence and the installed Codex skills set. 3 background terminals running, etc. So what I want to point out here, I didn't write OpenBrain. Nate Jones did, but he made it available to the community, and it's a very valuable skill and tool to have. It wasn't hard to set up. All I had to do was use the README and go very slowly, and I was able to set it up without asking for Nate's help or anyone else's, but it greatly expanded my capability with these models. So what I'm so excited about now is that OpenAI has come out with a killer model, GPT 5.5, and I'm not using it yet because I don't want to spend that many tokens, but I'm able to use Codex with a GPT 5.4 low reasoning. That's the one that responds quickly, that doesn't take a whole lot of tokens. And look how much detail it did in documenting. And I didn't have to teach it this. It did this all on its own based on a few instructions. It says, milestone on 2026, April 26, Codex local persistent skills were installed under Homegrown Codex skills so that they load across sessions without relying on ad hoc memory retrieval. Added skill folders for overlay audio, concat all, dream server, the dream capsule protocol, the remote agent deployment protocol, and phrase extractor, while retaining the existing OpenBrain Dream archive skill. Verified the installed files by listing what they were. Treat local skills directory as the durable Codex mechanism for custom skill persistence. And this is the key, because just like Apple provisions all their products based on how much memory they have, right now the flagship models are all basing their product fees on the persistence of their memory. So if you can set up your own memory, which is what Nate Jones has done with OpenBrain, then you are freed from this hamster wheel of constantly having to retell your personal agent what it needs to know in order to do the skills that you want it to do. So I'm not saying that there's anything, super special or complex about these skills that it added. But what I'm showing you is that this is some context that was previously preserved with OpenBrain. And now Codex will never need to query OpenBrain for those skills unless I tell it to refresh its understanding, because it's saved all of those skills locally in the correct directory. Now, this was really good for me because I didn't know enough to really know where Codex keeps track of its skills, but it's showing me exactly that. It's disclosing to me that it did everything exactly the way I wanted it to do. So that is my little quick demo of how you can use Codex with a Quest 2 and an SSH program, and you can work on your machine and have it do advanced coding and conceptual work like what you see here, almost without any effort because of the power of the model. And it shows how powerful Codex is and how Codex is much more capable than most people realize. So with that, I'm going to say thank you for watching and have a great day or night, whichever the case may be. And I'll end this video so it doesn't get too long. But please watch this space for more videos about AI and how to deploy AI using your Quest 2 or Quest 3 headset. Bye for now.